Well, thank you everybody for coming on in today. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to cover our student engagement challenges that we have seen so far. What is Yellowdig is the next thing we will cover, as well as our platform experience and impact. Next, we will talk a little bit more about what makes Yellowdig unique. And then we will get right into the demo. The demo will be the last 30 minutes of our hour together. And there'll always be questions and answers at the end, as well as if you have any questions throughout our time together, you can put them in the chat and we have our wonderful team answering those live.
Great. To kick us off too with another survey, we're curious, what you're hoping to get out of this demo and this time together today. We certainly want to make sure we're addressing your questions and concerns. So we've just put a couple answers in here that, we think we will hopefully cover by today, but want to see what you're interested in covering. And then if there's something in the other area that you wanted to cover as well, feel free to throw some answers in the chat if you don't feel like they're answered here on the poll.
Excellent.
Great. So I'll give you, oh, sorry, go ahead, Natalie.
I just wanted to read out the responses because that's the teacher in me. So
sure.
Which of the following questions are you hoping to have answered? Are you looking for number one, how can Yellowdig increase student engagement? Number two, why does gamification matter? What is Yellowdig is the third question. Number four, how can Yellowdig help meet my course objectives and requirements? Or are you wondering, how is Yellowdig different from my current LMS or discussion board? And of course, if you have other questions, please put those in the chat that you would hope to have had answered by the end of this demo.
Great. Give about 7 more seconds here to answer this question. And then we'll go ahead and share the results here. So like Natalie said, if there were any other questions that you hoped to address, I'm sure some will pop up too as we get started here. Feel free to throw those in the Q&A section, excuse me. All right, I'm gonna end it now. Awesome, so it looks like folks are looking to see how Yellowdig can increase student engagement and how Yellowdig is different from your current LMS discussion board. So great, we'll be sure to cover those.
Alrighty, so to start off, my name is Natalie Ramos. I joined Yellowdig fairly recently. My background is in teaching secondary science. I have my master's of education, and I just found myself becoming more interested in education technology and how it could make teaching asynchronously just a little bit easier. So I'm really excited to be here and present our Yellowdig platform today.
Awesome. I'm Kailie Starr. I'm a partnership specialist on the Yellowdig team. I've been with the company for about 1.5 years now. And I came to Yellowdig. I really liked the mission of Yellowdig, building communities for students. I actually transferred colleges, so that was something that I was really looking for, was more of that community feel and a sense of belonging. So that's something that was really important to me and something that I really liked about Yellowdig. So happy to, partner with folks and help them build communities as well. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm going to launch a poll here. If you could just kind of vote for which one kind of aligns best with your role or what you do at your school, that would be great. So we have instructor, dean, department chair, leadership, if you're in instructional design, if you're a teaching assistant, or again, if you don't feel like any of those align with what you do and want to pick other, you can throw that in the chat as well.
Excellent. So I see we're tied evenly, I think, for instructors and instructional designers here. Wonderful.
Awesome.
So as instructors, as instructional designers at this point into 2021, we know that the cause for Yellowdig really originated from seeing a need for student-centered learning design, whether it was asynchronous or synchronous learning. So the way our platform is designed is to really bridge that gap between online learning and the desire for a community of learners. Therefore, excuse me, before we get started, we just want to know what are some of the noticeable engagement challenges or barriers that you've noticed with your learners so far? So we really want you to just bring up whether it's language barriers, lack of social presence, really anything that you're seeing at this point in your online or synchronous learning environments that is this engagement challenge. And they're all very unique. So go ahead and put those in the chat box. And repeat it one more time. Just any noticeable engagement challenges or barriers that you've noticed with your learners so far.
Great, I'm seeing discussion board fatigue, students not logging into Canvas or forgetting. Yeah, good. We've seen a lot of acknowledgement of fatigue, whether that's discussion board or Zoom fatigue, or just overall this year has been challenging for everyone. The challenge of time management, great.
Absolutely.
Accessibility. Natalie just shared some of the things that we've been thinking about on the slide here. If you want to go ahead and read those off.
So just to call to mind, a lot of it could really be disconnected from real world examples and experiences, rigid rules in learning and design. And we know that COVID-19 has both accelerated these problems and driving change. So whether you're asynchronous or synchronous learning, we are here to help you just orient around taking those challenges and seeing how Yellowdig can work for you in your classrooms, and really create a vision for yourself as we're going through this. So we're going to go ahead and get started into talking more about Yellowdig. As we're doing this, please put any questions into the chat that come up.
Great. So kind of going off what Natalie just discussed, some of the challenges that we saw, we really started Yellowdig as a place for students to connect with one another. We really wanted to, provide a learning community where students could talk about things that were relevant, things that were going on in the real world that related to their course, things that were happening in the news. Maybe they found an article or a video that really related to what they were learning in class. Really wanted to make that course material relevant for the students and help them apply it to, maybe a career or something that they might, endeavor on. At Yellowdig, we're also very data driven. So we're very focused on outcomes, making sure that we're actually improving your educational metrics and outcomes. So we'll talk about that a little bit more too as we go on. But some of the things that we're really thinking about and measuring are student engagement. By measuring student engagement, we found that has a really positive impact on overall course success, persistence, and retention. So we'll touch on that a little bit more too.
Absolutely. And so what I love about Yellowdig is just the versatility of the platform itself. So we can build communities across curricular and co-curricular faculty communities, student retention and onboarding. Really, the way Yellowdig is designed is up to you, whoever is using it. So although we see primarily curricular Yellowdig communities, we're also used for a variety of other types of avenues. So we would just want to know, what are some of the community types that you are looking and hoping to build using Yellowdig? Curricular and higher ed, student clubs is an answer choice, student orientation groups, faculty, other co-curricular uses, curricular K through 12, of which we do currently have some high school cases here. Corporate communities, or if you don't see yours here, we'd be excited to know what that is. I wonder if I could actually just show this. There we go. Cool. Excellent. So we see these answers changing here.
Great. We'll give everyone about 15 more seconds to go ahead and answer this poll question. See, so far we have interest in curricular in the higher education space, interest in student clubs, and interest in faculty communities as well.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So we're hoping that as we go through the demo later on, you'll be able to really see the vision that you'd want to create using Yellowdig. So based on this poll amount, it looks like we have two of us using it for curricular cases and the other two for faculty groups or a student club. So as stated before, our philosophy is really centered around providing outcomes supported by research and data built within the platform. So as you can see here from some of these different groups, we've been able to conduct internal stakeholder interviews, case studies that show us how our platform actually performs across many different academic areas. So if you see yours here, we've been able to, for example, leaders and administrators increase engagement rates by 2 times, decrease 15% in course drop rates. And as Kailie had mentioned, there is a correlation between Yellowdig usage and academic success. And we love to partner with you to do studies and present them in our ebooks and whatnot, because we really value the outcome that comes from using a community building platform such as ours. Kailie, did you want to add anything here?
No, I think that was
Okay.
great. Yeah,
Excellent.
we can touch on some of this in the platform too, some of the data as well. Great.
I just changed.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. Awesome. So like Natalie mentioned, we're very data driven. So, here are some of our partner institutions. You can see a wide variety from private to public, for profit, kind of everyone in between, small, large. Obviously those institutions have very different needs from one another. So we really, partner with our partners to make sure that we're addressing those needs and impacting those metrics like I mentioned. So here again, just some of the data that we've seen with our studies with our partners and some of the things that we have an impact on.
Excellent.
You can go ahead to the next one. Sorry.
I was just going to ask if there's any questions coming up at all about this, please put them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, so what makes Yellowdig unique? This is the part where we're going to start touching in on some LMS discussion boards and Yellowdig. So Yellowdig is uniquely designed to bring out, I would say, the best of social media, but keeping the worst, more relevant features behind. And so what I mean by that is that there's really no learning curve to the intuitive experience or design of using Yellowdig. It's very modern, single scroll feed. It operates like social media platform. However, what differentiates us is our use of gameful learning approaches. And this is really just a behavioral incentivizing platform, which incentivizes learners to listen, respond, and share ideas without having the teacher to constantly encourage students to participate. You're less of like the sage on the stage and more of just part of your community of learners. So one of the ways in which our platform does this is actually allowing students to view the most recent discussion at the top of the single scroll feed. And in my opinion, I think it's like being in front of the class from home or coffee shop or wherever you're at, right? What we find is that course discussions are relevant based on actual student interest rather than being forced by typical everyone respond to one question posed by the instructor. So what you'll see in Yellowdig is that your students will actually be creating the questions, linking articles, bringing up blogs, or creating their own videos of something they came across in the moment as it relates to your course. So the best part about Yellowdig is that I think it provides, well, it does, sorry, I think the best part is it provides insights and benchmarks for the professor to improve on engagement and preventing dropout in real time. So with all of this awesome stuff happening, you will also have the data to support exactly those interactions that are or are not happening within your community of learners. And as you can see here, we do integrate with various LMS systems like Canvas and Blackboard, Moodle. We are FERPA compliant and ADA compliant. And we do have a patent on our gameful learning design, which is really awesome.
Cool. So we kind of visualized some of the things that Natalie talked about. But again, kind of comparing Yellowdig to your learning management system discussion board. To clarify, we're not replacing the entire learning management system, just the discussion board aspect. Like Natalie mentioned too, we do LTI integrate. So if you're not familiar, it's a very seamless integration. But what you see on the left here is kind of the traditional discussion board model, right? Your professor comes in, they post a prompt, everyone, posts once, comment twice, that sort of model. And we saw some issues with this model. So we saw, one, if everyone's answering the same question, you're not really getting, a variety of answers, or you're getting kind of those surface level comments of like, I agree, or great post, Natalie, that sort of thing. You also see this over time that students start procrastinating. So this is represented here. I know it's a little bit small, but if you can see our little green guy here is our go-getter. He's really excited to answer the prompt. And our little red guy here is our procrastinator. So even if I'm a go-getter student and I'm super excited to talk about this week's prompt, and I go in on Monday and start talking, there's no one in the platform yet for me to interact with. So I, over time, start procrastinating until Sunday night as well, because if I actually want to try to engage with my peers, that's when everyone else is on, right? So you see this procrastination over time. You also see really segmented conversations. So even if, let's say, in week 3, I get a really great conversation started, or, the prompt is really interesting to me that week, as soon as that clock strikes midnight and it rolls over to week 4, that prompt, is kind of cut off and dies down. And now I have to answer week 4's prompt. So it kind of cuts off those conversations, even if you do get a good one started. So those are some of the issues we saw with that traditional model. I'm sure you all are very familiar with that and probably even have additional issues that you've seen with that model. That's a common pain point, I feel like, especially COVID kind of exacerbated, right? So on the right here is what we like to see in our Yellowdig community. So you can see it's way more free-flowing. You can see ideas connected to one another, those dashes and dots, topics flowing across weeks and, being brought up again later in the course. So you can see here, we still have our instructor, they still have a role here, but we like to stray away from that prompt model where everyone is required to answer the same question, right? So Natalie kind of alluded to this earlier as well, but that the instructor is, still a member of the community, right? So you are still expected to be, an active member, that maybe you found an article that was interesting, or maybe, you have a question that you think, your students might be interested in kind of discussing. But now Yellowdig allows students to drive the conversation. So they can go out and find, material that relates to what they're learning in lecture and discuss it with their peers. They can ask good questions. And now with our reward system, they are rewarded for asking good questions. And their peers are rewarded for giving good answers to those questions. So we'll dive into that too when we hop into the platform in a second about our point system and how it incentivizes students. But that's really something that we like to see is students asking good questions and answering them, bringing in different articles and things that they find relevant. Any questions so far on this model? I know it definitely requires a little bit of a change in thinking about, maybe what you thought about prior about discussion boards. It's definitely a different pedagogy. I think once I hop into the platform too, it might be a little bit more clear, but any questions as of now? Cool, I don't see anything. So Natalie, if you want to stop sharing the PowerPoint, I can go ahead and pull up the platform.
I see one question here. Are students required to post any question or related to readings? Great question. That's up to your community. Honestly, students, we've seen them post responses to any questions even brought up by other students. So the way you design your community, even as an instructor, modeling that is how your students would follow along. So absolutely, students can post, they can start a reel of their question. And I'm gonna have Kailie go through and show you exactly what that looks like in the platform too. Christian, I hope that answered a little bit. Let's see.
Great.
Stopping share.
Alrighty, let me go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty, are you seeing Yellowdig?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is what our platform looks like for those of you who haven't seen it. It is a single scrolling feed, so you should start to see some elements of social media, whether that's emojis or hashtags. You can see here, this is an article that someone included, and it links out right to that article, and it embeds really nicely in the platform here. If you have seen Yellowdig before, you'll notice that we just recently, as of yesterday actually, updated some of our user interface. So the conversations are a little bit more like better connected. So you can see the comments here are now shaded light gray. You can hide these comments and collapse them. So it just makes it a little bit easier to follow the conversations that are occurring in the platform. Great. So as far as creating a post goes, this is obviously where most of the interactions are going to have, whether it's creating or commenting, but they have very similar functionality here. So you would title your post. Maybe I'm going to say welcome. You would type the body of the post here. And you can see here at the bottom, this bar is filling up. So you can actually add word minimums to your posting requirements, and this will track it as I'm typing. So once I reach that word minimum for the post, this will turn green and indicate to me that this is good to go. As far as some of the things that you can add to your post, so you can add a variety of multimedia, whether that's files, videos, images, audio. You can record video live in the platform here. So this is really great too, especially as like an introduction, especially if you are in an online learning environment and maybe don't get to meet your students face to face. You can record a video and humanize it for them, right? Introduce yourself, kind of lay out the expectations for the class, that sort of thing. Polls are a super popular feature as well. So again, it's really great for like icebreakers and some of those introductions to the course. It's also been used by some of our partners to test students' knowledge on a certain topic, maybe pre-lecture. Say, hey, how knowledgeable are you on rebranding strategies? And can kind of give them the options 1 through 10, maybe to rate them. Drawing's a great feature. I like it for annotating. So maybe I want to upload my lecture slides or an image of the text and, annotate it and, draw the students' attention to something there. For our STEM courses, we have some great formula capabilities. So we have a live editor and a basic editor of LaTeX. So you can, add your functions here, or you can even use our virtual keyboard. So you can see some of the different functionalities here that you can actually add into Yellowdig, which is really nice. For our STEM courses, Yellowdig is especially useful for kind of like a help forum, right? So I know, especially in my intro to chemistry course, like I took up my TA's time. So it would have been nice, I'm sure, for my TA if they had used Yellowdig and I was able to come here and ask my questions, put in my chemistry formulas and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I, can't balance my formula or whatever it might be. Students can actually come in here and, comment and say, hey, this is, I think this is where you went wrong, or have you tried this? And it's really great as kind of an opportunity for students to collaborate on problem sets and help each other out. Cool. Any questions so far, Natalie, that I should address?
I'm not seeing any questions coming up. We can talk about points.
Sure. Yeah. One other thing in here while we're in this editor here. So another new feature to Yellowdig, highly requested, is being able to post anonymously. So we would love for students to feel super comfortable in Yellowdig, and we've gotten really great feedback from our partners that they are. However, we do know that some of those students, maybe they are quiet, or maybe they're in a class that has some controversial topics, right? Maybe it's an ethics course and they don't feel comfortable sharing their opinion. They can actually make their post anonymous and share that way. Worth noting that this is you are able to turn this on and off for your community. So if you don't want students to have that ability, you can turn it off. But we know that, some partners that we've been working with really want this feature. So that's something new that we've made available in our platform, which is awesome. Something unique about Yellowdig is our topics. So this demo community is built out in a Business 101 kind of intro to business course. So you can see some of those general business topics. We recommend that these topics relate to your overarching course themes. So, maybe I am in a finance course, and so my topics are actually going to be more of those drilled down finance topics that I'm covering in lecture. We also recommend having some administrative topics as well, whether that's announcements, questions, introductions, that sort of thing, again, to kind of signal to you, what's being talked about. So the topics do a couple of things. They actually organize the community. So you can see here, it's really easy for me to tell that this post here is about marketing and the student has a question. So to me as an instructor, that would be a signal to me, okay, let me check this out and see if the student, if their question has been answered yet, or if I need to jump in here. You can actually filter by these topics. So maybe I want to filter by just the question topic and see what questions people have. That's something you do as well. The topics also act as kind of a check. So I know there was a question earlier about, basically how do students know what to talk about, or are they talking readings? What are they talking about in Yellowdig? These topics are a great way for you to kind of tell students what to talk about, right? Without giving them a rigid prompt that they have to respond to, you're giving them topics that they can talk about. So, maybe they're finding something, maybe this is a marketing course and it's the Super Bowl. And so they're using the topic advertising, and they're bringing in, the Super Bowl ads that they thought were really cool and had a really great advertising strategy. So they would, kind of be signaled to use that topic tag. Any questions, Natalie? Anything coming up?
Nope.
Anything that I missed that you wanted to touch on here?
I am not sure if you had touched on the recording a video. I feel like you might have.
Yeah.
I love that feature.
Yeah. So you can record video live in the platform. No worries.
That's great.
So yeah, just again, another great way to kind of humanize it. You can add multiple of these, media functions as well. So maybe I can record a video and then I can share a picture of my cat to, introduce myself. So cool. I'll hop to our point system because that's, again, another thing that really makes Yellowdig unique here. So you'll see kind of this snapshot here of my point earnings. If I go here, I'll be reminded how I can earn points. So as the instructor or the instructional designer, as you're setting up your course here, you will go ahead and set up, like I mentioned, your topics and your points. So the point system here, we have two different types of points in Yellowdig. We have our kind of participation points here. So students get points for creating a post and commenting on a post, just like they would in most traditional discussion boards. I mentioned earlier too, you can add or kind of change those word minimums if you want. We recommend still keeping them low. Just kind of sometimes people can say really great things in a shorter amount of words, right? We don't want to force them necessarily to write an essay in Yellowdig. So again, recommending we keep it low, but you can change that as you see fit. The other type of points in Yellowdig are our social points. So students now receive points when someone comments on their post and when someone reacts with an emoji to their post. So this is really great and really kind of where our change in student behavior comes from. So students are now incentivized to actually post earlier in the week. So if I know that I now get these points when someone interacts with my post, I'm incentivized to post earlier in the week to give them more of that opportunity to engage with my post. It also acts as sort of a qualitative bumper. So this is not a perfect qualitative metric, right? But kind of that social presence and pressure. If I post something that's really great quality, is super relevant to the course, something that my peers are really interested in, Natalie, if she's interested in that, is going to comment on my post. And now I'm rewarded for that. I'm rewarded for posting something that's of good quality and relevant to the course. On the flip side of that, if I post something that's not the best quality and not super relevant, Natalie now knows that I'm going to receive points if she comments on it. So this actually incentivizes students to, not post those surface level comments just to get their points, right? If I'm posting something that's not the best quality, like I mentioned, Natalie knows I'm going to get points for that, so she's not going to comment on that. This causes me to actually work harder to get my points for that week. And it also causes me to self-reflect, like, why didn't anyone comment on my post this week? Maybe it wasn't the right topic, or maybe it wasn't super relevant to what we're talking about. So, next time I'll try to post something that's, more relevant to the class. So that's kind of how our point system works there. These point totals are configurable. So the way that our grading works is it automatically grades, Yellowdig does. So you no longer have to go in and kind of check the box that someone made their post. We do that for you. And we automatically pass back to the grade book in your learning management system. So let's say you, set up Yellowdig to be worth 10% of their total grade. Maybe it's their participation grade. Yellowdig will pass back that grade to that proportion. Great. Any questions on the point system? Natalie, anything in the chat or Q&A?
Nope, I don't see anything here yet.
All right, great. Feel free to stop me as we're going through. I want to definitely make sure that we're touching on things that are most relevant to you, but I can continue kind of jumping in here. I'll go ahead and show you some of the data as well in the platform. Cool. Something worth noting too, like I mentioned, some of the changes in the platform here. If this is not your first time seeing Yellowdig, you'll see some of the user interface changes. We also made it easier for instructors to interact with the post here. So some other ways that students can earn points is actually through accolades or badges. So you can actually add that to a post here. So what those are, the instructor would create these badges. You can see some of these up here: conversation starter, or exceptional post, or shows critical thinking. You can get pretty creative with those and what you want them to mean or signify to your students that it's a good post. And so you can assign a point value to that. Students would earn extra points if they received one of those badges. And again, it's just kind of gives them extra points for creating a really exceptional post. We've also seen two, let's see if that one is, yep. So the verified response or instructor approved badge. So again, if students are asking questions and students are giving really great responses, sometimes if you're getting multiple responses, it might be confusing for that student. So the instructor can actually go in and badge that response and kind of say like, hey, this is approved by me, or this is the response I would have given, that sort of thing. Gives that student who answered it extra points, and then also signifies to the person who asked the question that this is the right answer, or the answer that they should be kind of focusing on, that sort of thing.
We do have a question coming up that is really interesting. Has there been any concern about groups of students bonding together to inflate points to each other's posts?
Yeah,
so I want to help you out and get you a good grade if you help me out, kind of.
Right. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah.
That's a great question. It's worth noting that we haven't seen much poor behavior in Yellowdig. And the few instances when there has been poor behavior, it's actually been reported by other students before the instructor has even had a chance to see it yet. So you can see here there's the opportunity to flag posts. So if someone posts something that's inappropriate or irrelevant or whatever it might be, students actually have the ability to flag a post, and that would notify the instructor that that post has been flagged. Students can also obviously email the instructor. We have the direct messaging feature, so they can message them too and say, hey, I think Kailie and Natalie are kind of, grouping up and just liking each other's posts to like them, that sort of a thing. So this community is really self-governed. Like I mentioned, with kind of those social points and that social presence there with our point system, students know that their peers are getting points for these things. And so they're pretty cognizant of that. And really self-govern the community. One way that you can actually see that, so I'll actually hop into the data here. So you can see community is our home feed here. This is where most of the action happens. I'm signed in as an instructor, so I can see some of this data and the settings here. But if you hop into our network graph here in the data area, it actually shows a really great visualization of students and their connectedness. So if two students were only talking with one another, you would see these dots are representative students. So you can see this is Sarah here. If two students were only talking to each other, you would see that back and forth arrow just between those two students. And that would be an indicator of, hey, maybe these two students are friends and they're trying to kind of help each other out and game the system. And that's kind of a good indicator that you should maybe reach out to those students. So while I'm here, like I mentioned, you can hover over these and see the student, see, how the percent that they're connected to, when they last connected, that sort of thing. And this is a good visualization too of some of those outlier students. So this is Bob over here. He's responded to 10% of members, but nobody's responded to him. So like we mentioned earlier, Yellowdig, or I should say there's a really strong correlation between participation in Yellowdig and overall course success. So these outlier students here are actually this is a good indication that these students might withdraw or fail from the class because they're not engaged in Yellowdig. So we've had partners actually use this network graph as a, intervention strategy of saying, hey, Bob isn't super engaged. Let me reach out to him. Maybe he's struggling with the course material or, something personal is going on. And we've gotten really great feedback that the students were like, wow, like my professor actually cares. Like they actually reached out and yeah, I am, struggling with the course. So this has been a really great way to do that and kind of just like visually see if your students are kind of on that outlier, like I said. We also have a table version too. So especially if you have 500 students in your class, it might be a little bit more difficult to see it in that visualization there, but you can actually see here, if I scroll over, the last time a student was connected. So you can see, they never connected, or this is obviously a demo environment, so it's not the best representation, but maybe you benchmark, hey, if a student hasn't participated in 10 days, I'm going to reach out to them, or whatever it might be. This is kind of a nice way to just see that really easily.
Excellent. I do love those two features. I think that those are most important for that concern about students teaming up together. There is another question brought by
Sure.
Christian. Can you just talk briefly about how this saves us time responding to discussion posts if we have to highlight good posts, good responses, and so on?
Yeah, great question. So with Yellowdig automatically grading and passing back to the learning management system gradebook, that saves you time from grading. Like I said, kind of, checking off the box. Okay, Olivia got her 1 post and 2 comments this week. It automatically grades it for you, like I mentioned. We also, don't necessarily recommend that you go and read every post and comment on every post. So the same way that you wouldn't try to scroll to the bottom of your Facebook feed and read everything there, that's kind of how we, recommend that you interact in Yellowdig. So you might, log in here maybe, a couple times a week. We've had instructors say that they look at Yellowdig while they're drinking their morning coffee. So maybe in the first, 15 minutes in the morning, just kind of scroll, find something that you want to interact with. So maybe, you found this really interesting, the topic of stockholder versus stakeholder. And so you want to interact with that. So again, just kind of finding what seems interesting to you, what you want to engage with. As far as the accolades go, we recommend, using them fairly judiciously. So, we don't expect you, like I said, to read every post and go and give each post an accolade. We really want kind of those exceptional posts to, stand out and receive those. As far as if you wanted to badge responses, that's just an example that I shared. That's not, an expectation, but like I said, having that question topic is really helpful. And you can then filter by that question topic and do it that way. So that's one way to kind of do that. Natalie, did I miss anything else, or is there anything else you would add?
Something that just came up to me is I know some instructor had a current news topic. And so the way they filtered was, I know something had just happened. recently in our community. And so I'm going to filter by current news, and that's how they kind of designed their way of saving time by just looking at a certain topic that their students were discussing for that week.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of many different ways. Christian, let us know if that had answered your question or if you'd like a different take on it. I know that we do have a good amount of time, so we can just keep going through different parts of our platform here.
Great. Yeah, if there aren't any other questions, I can dive back into the data here. So there's one other section I wanted to show you. So there are reports. So you can download pretty extensive reports. You can show, point logs of students and download different member reports here. For kind of a high level overview of your community, the community health area is really great. So you can see, kind of just gives you a snapshot of your community and kind of the interactions that are happening. There's an activity log showing you by week how students are interacting. The conversation ratio is something we focus on a lot at Yellowdig. So this is the average number of comments on each original post. So this is saying, on average, there's about 3.5 comments on every post. We like to see this number even higher. So this is a really good indication of that back and forth, conversation, right? You don't want to see a lot of posts where no one's interacting with it, that sort of thing. And with our case studies as well, and our studies on the platform and outcomes, this metric here is almost, an indicator that all your other metrics are going to improve, right? So if this conversation ratio is pretty high and that's improving, this is actually a good indicator that your other metrics are going to improve too, whether that's engagement or, connectedness, that sort of thing. To kind of dive into that a little bit deeper, this health check area usually takes a second to load when I'm on Zoom, so bear with me. But we look at a couple different metrics in the platform, measure them, and give you scores based on them. So we give you scores based on sharing, listening, and interacting. And again, this is kind of just a high level overview of your community. You can see here, you can look at how topics are being interacted with, how members are interacting. But to look at your community as a whole, you can see all of these different metrics are kind of adding up or averaging into this sharing score. So this is a lot of the generation of content, the average number of posts and comments, that sort of thing. We'd argue that listening and interacting are even more important than sharing. So listening is a good indicator of learning. So you can see that conversation ratio again, the number of posts viewed, links clicked. Actually, the number one indicator of, like by student, their success in the course is actually how many posts they viewed and how many reactions they gave out, right? I'm not necessarily liking a post just to like it. I don't get points for that, but I know my peer does. So if I'm going to give them a like on their post, I'm going to make sure, I'm reading the content and finding it interesting. So that's pretty a good indicator that they're actually learning here. And then the interacting score shows, how connected your students are as well. So showing kind of that engagement level. You can see here this bar on the left is this demo community, and on the right it's comparing it to the Yellowdig average. So again, just a nice benchmarking tool. You can also compare this if your institution adopts Yellowdig to your institution average, or maybe it's your College of Nursing average, whatever it might be that you want to compare your community to. So this is a great benchmarking tool for instructors to see how their community is faring out. And then it's also a great tool for administrators to kind of see areas of improvement as well. Have any other questions come up, Natalie?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, great. Yeah. So we can go ahead. We still have about 13 minutes. So spend just a little bit more time in the platform here and show you some of these other areas. So there's the My Participation area. So this is where you would see your total grade. We have some nice visualizations to show if you are on point or on par for earning your total points. So the way Yellowdig's points work is that you get a total semester grade or a total term grade, whatever that might be. And we have the notion of weekly maximums. So this is again to ensure that students are participating, almost every week. They're not necessarily front loading all of their points, or what's more likely to happen, wait until the last week and get all of their points. So kind of providing that weekly maximum as some metrics there. We also recommend having a buffer. So let's say, you expect your students to earn 100 points a week. Providing about a 20% buffer to provide that flexibility, right? Things happen. Students might be slammed with exams one week and not able to participate as much, or maybe they're sick one week. So again, providing that flexibility so that Yellowdig doesn't necessarily make or break their grade, but still provides some of that grade incentive there. So again, here are some of those. You can see, again, it shows you kind of your target and if you're on point for that. You can see your point log here. So it shows you, exactly how you got those points. This links right out to that post that you got points for, when you got them, that sort of thing. Cool. As far as kind of what you would do as an instructor or instructional designer, I kind of, mentioned this earlier, but as far as setting up your community, this would all live in the settings area. So you would set up your point system. We have a very interactive point system. So, we have some recommendations, right? If you say that you want, you put in your earning window here. So if you put in your, semester length, we'll actually divide up the periods and make some recommendations based on, the studies that we've done. So this is, a pretty interactive point wizard here that, like I said, makes recommendations. You would create your accolades here. So you would go in and kind of, pick your color and little image here, what you want it to be named and the point value. This is where you would create your topics. So again, pretty similar to creating accolades. Probably wouldn't recommend having this many, but this is our demo board obviously here. But you can see again some of the, topics that you might want to use to kind of get you thinking there.
I do want to mention with topics that it was really interesting. We had an instructor teaching both French and English abroad. And so some of the topics were just in different languages, and that really allowed both groups of students, whether they were in France or in the United States, to still talk about current events in their languages and practice that way. So if that's something that you are doing, or you know someone at your school site or university who would like to use it that way, that's one way topics have also been used.
Yeah, great. I've also seen them been used too in like English or literature courses. These are maybe, the novel names or something, and then some of those themes that you're analyzing in those novels as well. So you can pick Great Gatsby and analogies or something, or imagery or symbolism. So you can kind of use both of those topics to, again, indicate that you're talking about this novel and this particular kind of theme that you're analyzing within that novel, that sort of thing. Cool.
Any questions so far? Good.
All right. Worth noting, when you're in Yellowdig, it's super easy to hop around into different communities. So if I'm using Yellowdig in my business 101 course, and I, participate in there, and I want to hop over to another community, it's super easy to do that. So there's some other communities we have here. Great. I know we're running pretty close on time. So if we don't have any questions, Natalie, do you want to pull the slide deck back up just for upcoming kind of events and things going on with Yellowdig? Cool. So I'll stop sharing my screen here. And if you want to go ahead and do that.
Okay, do you see digging into the demo?
Yep, seeing that now.
So our Q&A kind of been going throughout the session today. But we do have a current release of our latest ebook, Connect Like Never Before, which there are more examples of how our different professors have been using Yellowdig. So you'll be able to really understand their stories and insights, and be able to create a vision for yourself. We just put it in the chat here to be able to download it. We do have quotes and mentions of exactly how these professors have used it in their courses. And Kailie, I'm not sure if you want to speak to several of them that had caught your eye. I know I mentioned the French one. I think that was my favorite.
Yeah, that's a great example. I know too, there was an instructor who has a lot of students in China. So, sometimes there's that barrier of technology and access in China, and they actually didn't have any issues with Yellowdig, which is great.
Mm.
So it was a great opportunity, he said, for them to kind of practice their English, and kind of do it in an environment where there's less pressure than if you're speaking in person, especially some of those, shyer students who might not raise their hand in class. Yellowdig is a really great opportunity for them to, still actively participate without having to do so in person necessarily. So I thought that was a really cool example.
Yeah, that actually brings up another good point is some of the things I've been hearing too is from this ebook is this continues discussion as Mike is saying, this isn't discussion board, this is a lunch table. I mean, this is really the conversations that are extending outside of the classroom and into the hallway talks or into the coffee tables or lunch tables, really. So this in asynchronous and synchronous environments, it can really work to really create the community um, that extends the discussions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I know someone was interested in faculty communities and clubs too.
Yes,
So
that's
this is
right.
also a great area to maybe make those club announcements or have an extension of kind of what was being discussed in your club meeting, having those conversations in Yellowdig. Same with faculty, right? It's hard to get all faculty at one time together in one place. So having those conversations in Yellowdig, having this kind of be that water cooler area, or faculty office, that sort of thing, faculty lounge, that's what I meant.
Yes, definitely. Um, okay, so we have about 5 more minutes. If you are brand new to Yellowdig, we do have our free pilot experience we are offering. So here in this huge QR code is our Yellowdig pilot registration form. And so you'll be able to have Yellowdig for one academic term. Faculty, staff, you're able to experience Yellowdig in your own classroom, absolutely no cost. There is a training because we are technology and pedagogy. We do require this free faculty training in our instructor certification course. And as always, you have access to community setup and ongoing support from our onboarding team. And you'll be able to have your pilot dashboard produced for any insights, outcomes, and data that we had just shown you. And of course, we can integrate into your current LMS. That link is in the chat as well. So if you don't have your phones out, you can click our link in the chat.
Great. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I'm happy to give everyone 4 minutes in their day back. But
Yeah,
thanks so much for joining us, everyone. It was a pleasure to chat with you all today and learn a little bit more about you. Our contact info is there on the screen. Fairly simple. Kailie at yellowdig.com and Natalie at yellowdig.com. Happy to answer any additional questions that you might have after this demo.
great.
All right. I think we're
All
good
right.
to end it.
Everyone have a good rest of your day.